Welcome back to the Life Design Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Borland, and today we're going to talk a bit about the importance of self-reflection, which leads right off of last week's talk on identifying limiting beliefs. Because when we take a moment to reflect on our thoughts and feelings and experiences, not only does it help us gain clarity, but it allows us to identify patterns and to actually learn from mistakes that we've made. In addition, it gives us a chance to develop a consistent level of self-awareness. And that's a key component, of course, in personal growth. So we're definitely going to be influencing or encouraging you today to take a few minutes to reflect on the day, on the goals that you're currently working on, and on your progress towards them. And when we do that, I think you're going to be a bit surprised at what you discover. So let's jump right into it. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe now so you can join us on every episode. We truly appreciate it. And be sure to engage in the comments section of your favorite platform for your chance to be invited as a guest on one of our episodes. So what exactly is self-reflection? Well, not to sound too stuffy about it, but it truly is an essential practice that allows us a deeper understanding of the thoughts that we have, of the emotions that we experience and feelings that we feel, and of course, our behaviors. And when we do this on a regular basis, when we engage in self-reflection on a regular, consistent basis, we actually enhance our self-awareness, our personal growth, our health, and our overall well-being. Now, clearly, I think the majority of us want those things, as high level, as high quality as possible. But why bother with this self-reflection, right? Well, let's look at 3 of the top benefits of engaging in self-reflection. Again, on a consistent basis. So first and foremost is it increases our self-awareness, right? When we do self-reflection, it helps us to understand things like our values. Okay? We should be making every decision that we make, living our lives based on the values that we hold for ourselves. Quite frankly, when we catch ourselves doing things that are not in alignment with our values, we wind up with tons and tons of challenges that we oftentimes don't even really realize what is going on. And it's what we often refer to as cognitive dissonance. You've probably heard that saying before. If you're familiar with me and any of my videos, you've definitely heard it before. But in addition to that, it helps us to understand our beliefs, our motivations. And don't be fooled by the word motivation. A lot of people hear, motivation, motivational videos, and so on and so forth. There's I'm gonna call it a fluff version of motivation. And then there are things that are actually motivators for us. Okay, we're not going to get into that deep on this video, but we can definitely have a conversation more about that, or should I say on this episode. But we can have a deeper conversation about motivations a different time. But to understand them, that's all done through our self-awareness, through an increased level of self-awareness, which again happens through us doing self-reflection. Okay. It gives us a heightened awareness, which leads us to, I guess I would call it more of an informed decisions, as opposed to making the right decision. That happens when we have a more informed level of decision making. Okay, and that means we're making decisions that are in alignment with our values or with the core of who we truly are, or what some would call our true selves. So that's number 1. Number 2, it actually helps us improve our emotional intelligence. Now, this seems to be a trigger word a bit lately, but in reality, this is one of the key tools for top performers, for people that are truly at the top of their game. And that doesn't mean you have to want to be, the best of the best and out there just pushing every day. Improved emotional intelligence, it's the benefit to that, the deep core seated benefit to that is your peace. It's your contentment. It's your joy and happiness, right? If you don't know how to maintain your emotions, that's what we're talking about when we say emotional intelligence. It means being able to control your emotions. It also means understanding the emotions of other people, because when you start to understand your own, it helps you recognize those things in other people, which means you've now got tons of benefit, tons of other improvements that, again, we can go over in a different episode. But, when you start recognizing through your own emotional intelligence, when you start recognizing the reasons other people have the emotional reactions that they do, man, it just changes everything. It's a wild ride. So, again, it allows us to reflect on our emotions, to understand them better, to become more intelligent about them, and specifically in how they affect our behavior, right? When we become extremely emotional intelligent, we have control, much better control, over our behavior regardless of the situation going on around us. That, again, leads to better relationships. And I'm not talking just with your spouse or your kids or your coworkers, but also a relationship with yourself, right? They say, I'm sure you've heard this before, most people are harder on ourselves than we are on other people. Well, what if you can master your relationship with yourself first? It makes relationships with everyone else, I don't care if it's your obnoxious boss, your grouchy neighbor, I was going to say Karen up the street. I don't really sorry, I left it in. I wasn't going to go there, but the reality is it really does. When we can master our relationship with ourselves, then other people, they don't have as much of a negative influence on us. They don't put us in a bad mood. They don't, light us off and all these other things that happen in life. So the importance of it, it's, number 2 on the list of everything I could have put together. That's a big one. And number 3, and I know it's common words and we hear this and it gets overused, but it really does benefit us in the areas of our personal growth and development. And the reality is, if you're listening to this podcast, that's important to you. If that's not important to you, honestly, I'd say you probably need to listen to this podcast even more so than somebody that it is important to. But self-reflection, it helps us to identify areas in our lives where we have strengths. But equally, and sometimes even more important, is it helps us recognize or identify those areas where we need some improvement. Helps us understand which areas, which improvements need to be done, and at what level. Just a little bit of improvement, or are we really hurting here? Is there a big gap that we really need to level up on? And all of this combined, it really does lead to a more focused and a more intentional approach to our personal growth, our personal development. And more simply put, and more profoundly put, an intentional approach to our life, so that we're the ones making the decisions. We're the ones in control. We're the ones that make the rules for what happens. And a lot of us think that's the case, and then our boss says we got to work 2 hours overtime. And we kind of wanted to get out of there, or whatever the case is. I know you know what I'm talking about. Yes, we have some levels of control, but when we have a focused and intentional approach to how we personally grow and develop and progress in life, the more we do that, the more control and the more freedom and the more flexibility we can design within our own life. Look, the reality is we're busy, right? So for the busiest of us, implementing self-reflection, it can be challenging sometimes. It feels overwhelming, or it feels like something that's, let's be honest, at times a little unnecessary, a little fluffy, woo-woo, but it's not. We all do it to some extent. Sometimes we do it when we get called out by other people. When we do it intentionally, we get to design, we get to create the benefits and effects that we gain from it. We make it work for us rather than just being forced to be, at the beck and call of self-reflection. So how do we do it? Well, here comes the fun part. We schedule it in. We schedule some reflection time. It doesn't mean you're, trying to come up with an hour out of your day where you're moving other tasks out of the way, right? But it is just like any other important activity or priority in our lives. We need to schedule time for self-reflection. And that can happen in a ton of different times and in a ton of different ways. So, even if it's just a few minutes each day, I could say, or a few minutes each week, but I want to be realistic. If you're only doing it once a week, chances are you're going to fall off. It's not going to happen. You could do it while you're running, riding a bike, while you're doing a workout. Let's be honest, most of us, we're not, taking notes about our workouts. We're not sitting there creating this workout log. And you know what? If you are, guess what you're doing? You're self-reflecting. Yeah. That's a form of self-reflection right there. You're literally tracking, how many reps did I do? Did I put in all my effort? Did I get the results I wanted? You're doing, and it's not exactly it, but it gives you an idea of the flexibility that there is within self-reflection. You go on walks, self-reflect. You're sitting there eating a meal, as long as there's not someone important to, be in the moment with. If you're eating alone, take a 5-minute, 10-minute walk around the parking lot at your lunchtime by yourself. Or walk with someone and say, hey, you know what? I just want some quiet time on this walk. So, let's not make it a talk and walk or a walk and talk. I just want to do some thinking, but if you want to come along, go for it. So that's one option. And literally you can do it anywhere. Driving in your car, turn the news off. Don't turn this podcast off. I'm watching you. Get your hand away from there. Driving time's great. That for years, that's been my university and my self-reflection time. So that's one. Use prompts, right? What do I mean by that? Use prompts. What are you talking about? Sounds like a chat GPT thing, right? No, it's not. What do I mean by that is it's a way that we make self-reflection more accessible or more consistent. We use, some people may say triggers, right? Use a trigger. So it's break time. That's your trigger. That's what reminds you to self-reflect. Someone asks you a question or says, what's your thoughts about that? Guess what? Bam. Self-reflection. Even though you're answering them a question for them, you're self-reflecting on, because they asked your opinion. But you can now ask yourself, as an example, what is my answer to them? What went well? Let's say they ask you something about your day. So you're self-reflecting. How was your day? You're self-reflecting. What did go well today? I'm glad you asked. let me really think about that and be realistic with you. Let me, what did go well today? A, B, C, D, right? Or, what could have I done differently? Well, today was okay, but, as I think about it for a minute, there are a couple of things I kind of think I could have done a little better. I would have come out a little bit differently. And that is such a simple form is to create a prompt or a trigger that causes you to do this. Setting an alarm, that's a prompt, that's a trigger, right? So that is legitimately, it almost sounds a little too simple. But if it's too hard, you're not going to do it. That's why once a week, honestly, I just don't. I know a lot of people say do it once a week, do a journal or something, take a Saturday or Sunday or whatever day it is for you and just do some self-reflection. No, get in the habit of doing it 2 minutes at a time. You're going to the restroom, you're probably going by yourself. You're not doing a lot of talking to somebody. Self-reflect. Think about some things. Once you get in the habit, it's almost hard to fall out. Like, I self-reflect probably 10 times a day on a variety of things. I'm a coach. I create content like this all day, every day. So I have to self-reflect. I'm working with clients. I'm getting them to self-reflect. I'm not giving them advice. That's pretty rare. That's 10% of what I do. I'm getting them to self-reflect. What does that do? Causes me to self-reflect. And it's part of the reason I love what I do. So what is the third option that I have for you? And this one, I'll be honest, I kind of bounced back and forth a little bit before I just chose it, simply because most people think of it as self-reflection itself. It's practicing mindfulness, but mindfulness is different. So let me share that. So mindfulness itself, it's a form of self-reflection, but it involves paying attention to our thoughts. Wait, didn't I say in the beginning this tied right in with what we spoke about last week? If you didn't hear it, I will put a link in the description to last week's. Go through my list. If you're listening to this in 2023 or early 2024, it's a pretty new podcast, so you won't have to scroll very far to find it. But the launch podcast on November 1st of 2023 is when we talked about that. So go check it out. But again, mindfulness involves paying attention to our thoughts, to our feelings, and our emotions. Two different things. But our feelings in the present moment without judgment. Yes, pausing for effect. Okay? Paying attention to our thoughts and our feelings in the moment without judgment. Okay? It's mindfulness. It's simply acknowledging, wow, yeah, that's what that thought just went through my head. That made me feel how it made me feel. Jealous, angry, happy, sad. Let me put it this way. Simple mindfulness practices, the simplicity of mindfulness practices can be as easy as deep breathing for a few minutes. Okay? And allowing your mind just to be with whatever thoughts go through your head, not thinking about them, not grabbing onto them like, oh, I got to take my car to the car wash. Oh, I should schedule that here. There. No, I got to take my car to the car wash. That's right. Thanks for reminding me. That's it. Let it go. Back to your breath. In. Feel it come in. Oh, that's kind of cool going through my nose. Oh, it's a warm day. It's hot. Oh, one side of my nose is a little stuffy or closed up today. I'm really getting the, flow through one side. You're feeling the feelings, the sensations. You're recognizing the thoughts as you go, it's hard to breathe in. My nose is stuffy. Oh, okay. Don't sit there and think, oh, when I'm done, I should go get some nasal spray. And, this is the whole point. And this falls into the next part of this, which another tip or another way of doing it is just not short term. Let me digress. A quick meditation session. 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5, 7 minutes, whatever quick means to you in that moment. Okay, these are things that can be incorporated into our daily lives, into our routines, into our habits, and they will help facilitate or they'll help allow us to create the consistency of mindfulness. Again, it's different from self-reflection. Self-reflection is actually really thinking about those thoughts, acknowledging them, and actually considering them. Mindfulness is the simplicity of saying, oh yeah, I do have to take my car to the car wash. Thank you, brain, for reminding me. And it's almost like you go, next. What thought's going to come to me next? Oh, my back hurts a little. Yeah, it does. Interesting. Glad I recognize that. Next, right? Again, pause for effect here. You're not continuing that thought. You're not engaging the thought and taking it forward. You're recognizing it. You're acknowledging it. Like if somebody comes up and says, excuse me, as they're walking past, you can say, oh, absolutely, not a problem. If you were legitimately in their way, oh, my apologies. And you're on. It's not like, oh, I'm so sorry. I was in your way, or, no problem. Can I help you get by? You're not really engaging them, but you're acknowledging them. You're not ignoring it. That person or that thought. Yes, I need to take my car to the car wash. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not when am I going to fit that into my day. Yes, I need to do it. Thanks for reminding me. Next. Right? So, keep it simple. If you want to get into some more in-depth things of the differences between these, we can do that. Engage. Let me know. Tips, tricks, processes. You want to come on as a guest and we can actually walk through some breathing techniques? Great. Engage. Tell me what you do that helps you maintain a level of consistency in these areas. Okay, by regularly practicing self-reflection through any of these methods or any that you may already have, even the busiest of individuals, we can gain extremely valuable insights that can lead us to not just positive changes in our lives, but truly to consistent growth towards the lives, businesses, relationships, whatever it is that you want and are striving for. That is the point of self-reflection. It's because anyone can do it, and it gives us those valuable insights that we need to create that change, those transformations, those transitions in a consistent fashion or a consistent direction toward the desires, towards the life and business and relationships and what have you that we actually want. So I hope this podcast, this episode has been helpful for you. If you haven't already done so, please, please, please go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and engage. Let us know what stood out to you. Share your thoughts. Share tips and tricks. Share criticisms in a respectful way. Let's engage and talk about it. I've said this on other podcasts. I say this all the time, even on the initial trailer. My goal as the host of the Life Design podcast is that we will create engagement, that you will be part of this conversation, and that you may wind up being part of the actual show. You may get invited to be a guest on one of the episodes. So engage and subscribe and join us on each episode, and feel free to tell us what you like, what you don't like. Again, do it in a respectful manner. We will always be respectful to you and your opinions and perspectives and what you share with us as well. We look forward to engaging with you in that fashion. I do personally, and I thank you for being a part of this podcast and this growing community of engaged listeners, growth-minded, engaged listeners. And I hope to actually meet you and have a chance to talk with you on one of the episodes. So until that time, live awesome and enjoy your journey.